Hello, I'm Laura, and this is my first video of me rambling about politics. First things first, who am I and why should you listen to me? I am a 16-year-old high school student. There is literally no reason why you should listen to me over some big authority figure who actually has say on your life and what laws they're passing for you. However, I do have a fresh new perspective on politics as I come from a generation who is weirdly very invested in politics, given that we can't even vote yet. The topic for today is how having multiple parties in the United States would actually make us united. Right now, at least in New York State, when you register with a party to vote, the options are Democratic, Independent, Conservative, Libertarian, and Republican. Now, at face value, that sounds like a decent variety, but in reality, it's like you're going to a restaurant and it's buffet style and you're really excited for all the different options you can pick, and then you get there and they tell you that your only options are between chicken and beef, when you know there's so much more variety out there. Now, why is the system like this? Americans clearly don't like listening to anyone because our very own president, George Washington, warned us against a two-party system and the division it would create amongst the American people. And guess what? We went and created a two-party system. And guess what again? It created the division he said it would. So my official, well-researched answer to why the system is like this is, I don't know, and it sucks. The US never formally adapted a multiple-party system. Yes, we've seen smaller parties like the Libertarians and the Green Party show up in presidential elections, but they never really made an impact. They never gain real traction because voters are afraid of their vote going to waste. This basically translates to, I like this candidate, but I want my vote to actually make a change and matter. Sidebar. Independents are sometimes called a party, but for the sake of this conversation, I'm not going to consider them one because they can't vote in primaries. A party you can't fully participate in seems fake. Since opinions are not black and white and never have been, we've crammed multiple factions into the two parties of Democrat and Republican. What is a faction? Long story short, factions are just groups within the political parties that disagree about how far left or far right the party should be moving. So instead of having multiple parties, we have multiple parties, disguised as two of them. Right now, both Democrats and Republicans have a ton of factions. Here are some of the most prominent within the Democratic Party. Extreme progressives like AOC, very progressives like Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, progressive new guards such as Kamala Harris, progressive old guards such as Biden and Pelosi, moderates like Gottheimer and Lamb, and conservative Democrats such as Edwards. So basically, what we've done is take a bunch of different ideologies and throw them into one party. And then we act surprised as to why nobody agrees on anything and why America never gets anything done. A prominent example in the media of this right now are Democratic Socialists. Democratic Socialists are often viewed as a completely separate party from the Democrats. However, in elections, they're still viewed as part of the Democratic Party. In most other countries, they would be a separate party, but here, they're just not. If you look at other countries, their political spectrums go much more left and much more right than America's does. And they actually have separate parties to separate those different views instead of just creating factions. Now, this is funny because America also has that range. We just hide it under two labels and hope nobody notices. Now, how far right and how far left does America truly go? In the Democratic Party, we have two common sides. Moderate liberals tend to support a mostly capitalist economy. However, more progressive Democrats push for a more socialist system rather than capitalist. They impose higher taxes on the wealthy to fund the same programs. They basically want the same thing, just at higher lengths. On the Republican side, you also have two main groups at this point in time. You have the MAGA movement, which often wants to scale back funding for social programs and focus on economic growth through trade and energy. This is much different from older Republicans, who focus on balanced budgets, small businesses, limited government, personal freedoms, and cautious foreign policy. So yeah, same party, very different vibes. When you mix all these factions into just two parties, it creates a lot of misinformation on both sides about what both parties actually stand for and want for America. And then social media takes that and makes it so much worse. Because social media doesn't show the average Joe Schmo, reasonable people with balanced opinion. It shows the most extreme, loud, and oftentimes misinformed voices. For example, a common joke such as the blue-haired liberal, which I find quite funny, which comes from viral clips of people defending the Democratic Party when they don't even know what they're defending. And suddenly, that one person on the internet represents millions of people. Same thing happens on the Republican side, where extreme or outright offensive views get associated with the Republican Party. So now everyone thinks that the other side is insane, and nobody actually understands each other. So what's the solution to this? A multi-party system. If we separated these ideologies into different parties, like Finland, Norway, Portugal, and Spain do, we'd actually know what everyone stands for. No more guessing and no more lumping everyone together. I believe a simple way to break down the different parties could be very progressive liberals, old/new wave liberals, and independent left-leaning liberals. On the right side, it would be America First/conservatives, the old Republicans, and right-leaning independents. And then the independents would get their own party where they could vote in their own primary elections. But here's the thing, just adding more parties isn't going to fix anything. Why not? Because people are still stuck in the mindset of, I need to vote for who's going to win, not for who I actually like. During primaries, people constantly do this. I really like Jane Doe, but she's too progressive to win, so I'm just going to vote for the other more moderate candidate, Joe Schmo. So these people, instead of choosing what they actually believe in, choose what they think everyone else is going to choose, which is a great way to guarantee that nobody actually gets what they want. So how do we fix that? Easy. Ranked choice voting. This system lets you rank your candidates in order of preference, first, second, third, etc. So instead of putting all of your hope into one candidate and praying, you get backup options. An example for the next election of a Republican voter might be a rank of Vance, Rubio, and Thomas Massie. So even if their first choice doesn't win, their vote actually goes to someone who they support. With multiple parties and ranked choice voting, voting would work in rounds. If no one candidate got the majority in the first round, the lowest ranked candidates would get kicked out, and those votes get moved to people's second or third choices. This continues until someone has majority support, which could end up with elections winning with 63% instead of what we currently see with only 51% of the population supporting it. Right now, elections are decided by tiny margins. But with this system, the winner could actually reflect what the American people want, not just who seemed safe enough to vote for. And maybe, just maybe, people would stop voting out of fear and start voting based off what they actually believe in, which kind of seems like the whole point. Thanks for watching. Comment down below what you want to see me talk about next, and subscribe if you liked what I talked about.